Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, different, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, for fighting each other and carrying on and weakening their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know, as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only of the descendants of the black people of Africa, from Islam, coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism, are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.
Don't work against us becoming Muslims if that's our choice. America is land of the free and home of the brave. And damn it, I'm brave and I'm free. And you can't take it away from me. I'm going to have freedom of choice. I choose Islam. I choose Quran. I choose Mohammed. I choose this religion for myself. And as long as my children are under my supervision and not of age to make their own decision, I am choosing Islam for all of my children. As long as my wife will like me, will love me, and she doesn't have to love me, as long as she respects me. I choose Islam for my wife. And that's my responsibility. And I hope you all feel the same way. Thank God we are free at last. We are free at last. You're not free when you're just free from physical bondage. You're not free until your mind is free and your human spirit is free. Your human spirit will take you where God wants you to go. And if you got that human spirit that will follow what God wants, your mind will be blessed by God to know how to get your body there. To get your body there. We're tired of being spooks in America or anywhere else. We are no spooks. We have a human body like everybody else. Don't tell me to accept God, immigrant Muslim from Pakistan and from Egypt and other places. Don't come over here and give me a life of Muslim ritualism. I had enough ritualism. I feel the genes in the, of my foreparents. They are in me. And I have a distaste for too much ritualism. I want reality. I want reality, and I want a place in this world. I want to obey God, and I want to get my share of this material world. Don't give me a spirit and tell me I can't have a body. God didn't give me a spirit and tell me I can't have a body. God gave me a spirit, and he gave me a material body to house my spirit. Now give me a material environment to house my mind and my spirit that is African American. We want to see New Africa. We want to see New Africa Islamic theaters. We want to see skyscrapers go up, and we build them. We want to see shipping lines and trucking lines and transportation lines all over in our neighborhood. We want to walk outside our house and we want to look at the products and the construction and the industry of our own people, Muslim African Americans in New Africa, on these shores. On these shores. That's our rightful inheritance as the creation of God. God has created us for this. That's our natural inheritance. And we will accept nothing less. Nothing less. They have Spanish Town. They have Chinatown. Damn it, get ready for African American town, Muslim New Africa. And I won't say it. I know you've been waiting for it. You've been waiting for me to say it. We cannot be stopped now.
Hear me? Assalamu alaikum. Can anyone hear me? Testing 1 2. Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Yes, we can hear you, Ahmed. You're live. We can hear you.
Yeah. I'm live.
Yes, sir.
So we're live.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is, with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. I bear witness there is nothing deserving of worship except God. And I bear witness that Mohammed is the servant and messenger of God. The prayers and peace be upon him. Welcome once again, our internet audience. Assalamu alaikum to New Africa Talks internet program. My name is Ahmed Sabri, and I'll be your host for this afternoon. New Africa Talks focuses on topics affecting the Muslim community in association of Imam W.D. Mohammed and the African American community at large. Excuse me 1 second. We're having a few technical difficulties.
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Oh, we're on now. We will see a while. We're on now.
Today's topic for this afternoon is the Clara Muhammad School Initiative as envisioned by Imam W.D. Mohammed. Our guests for this afternoon are two individuals associated with the Educational Committee founded and started by Imam W.D. Mohammed. They are Sister Basimah Abdullah and Imam Ronald Shaheed. Before they come on, I'm going to read both their bios. And Mujahid, you could put them on now. Their cameras on now. I'm going to read the profile of Sister Basimah Abdullah. Can you hear me? Sister Basimah said, this is her profile. Sister Basimah met Imam Muhammad and in turn the religion of Al-Islam through her mother's conversion in 1975. Coming home from her first year in college, she says, I remember waking up the following morning to all of my clothes having been thrown away and these old dresses from the Goodwill. I remember my mother saying, we are Muslim now, and these are the clothes you will wear. Neither of us, she says, ever looked back. Listening to Imam W.D. Muhammad's teachings of the science of religious reasoning has taken us both into a lifestyle of faith, high expectations of self and others, in this movement. Sister Basimah is the mother of 5 children, 3 sons and twin daughters. Personally, she says, I am in Texas assisting with my 17th grandchild, 12 boys and 5 girls. Alhamdulillah. She received, I'll read it in first person how it's written. I received my master's in education from Cambridge College in Massachusetts after my undergraduate study from the University of Missouri at Columbia in St. Louis. All of our faculty continue to complete courses, work to stay abreast of new research, and to fine-tune our teaching skills. I have worked with 4 Clara Muhammad schools in my career in St. Louis, Tallahassee, Boston, and I have been the principal of the Clara Muhammad School in Milwaukee since 1997. We prepared for, applied, and received our first accreditation in 2004 and have completed 3 subsequent follow-up sites visits to maintain that accreditation. Our school has participated in the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program since religious schools were permitted in 1998. We have a very diverse staff with Pakistani, Nigerian, Bangladeshi, Libyan, Chinese, Caucasian, and African American Muslims and non-Muslims. Both student population is mainly Somali refugees and American, with a couple of Pakistani students. We were blessed to have purchased Chromebooks for all of our students last year, making our transition to online learning that much easier for faculty and students. A great deal of how we plan and manage the school is based on our understanding of Imam Muhammad's approach to Islamic reasoning as it pertains to our daily lives. Alhamdulillah. It's the bio of Sister Basimah Abdullah. Now, our other guest is Imam Ronald Shaheed, who's been on here before, the guest. Imam Shaheed received his Master's of Education degree from Florida A&M University and has all but his dissertation completed for a doctorate in education. He converted to Al-Islam in 1973 in Tampa, Florida, and has been an Imam W.D. Mohammed Islamic religious leader in the community of Muslims, a Muslim American leader. Imam W.D. Mohammed for 41 years. I'm sorry for that misreading. He is Imam Emeritus of Masjid Sultan Muhammad in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and former Director of Education of Clara Muhammad School in Milwaukee, where he served from 1998 to 2016. Mr. Shaheed worked as a student affairs educational administrator in various colleges and universities. From 1972 to 1998, he served Imam W.D. Mohammed and his ministry from 1992 to 2008 as a coordinator for Imam Muhammad's college and university lectures and assistant to Imam Muhammad and his ministry for interfaith dialogue. In this role, he has traveled to Italy and the Vatican on 7 occasions, and in 1999, he had the honor of representing Imam W.D. Mohammed at an interreligious assembly of more than 225 world religious leaders at the Vatican. Imam Ronald Shaheed was a member of the delegation that visited Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza with Imam W.D. Mohammed as guest of President Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian people in December 1996. In December 1995, he visited the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with Imam W.D. Mohammed and a 13-member delegation as the guest of King Fahd ibn Abdul Aziz. He completed the Hajj, that's pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, on February 2003 and July 1989. In 2002, Imam Shaheed represented Imam W.D. Mohammed at a retreat for young adults from 11 European countries in Ottmaring, Germany, coordinated by the International Folklore Movement of Germany. He also, along with two officials of the Presbyterian Church USA, coordinated a 5-year multi-city dialogue between the Presbyterian Church USA and the representatives of the community of Imam W.D. Mohammed from 2008 to 2013. Imam Shaheed has been a newspaper columnist on the religion of Al-Islam, a host of radio and television programs that focus on Islam, and was a coordinator of the nationally syndicated television program, W.D. Mohammed and Guests. Imam Shaheed has served in the role of Muslim chaplain in state and federal prisons in Florida and Wisconsin, and in recent years has found the time to edit and publish 11 books based on the commentary tafsir of Imam W.D. Mohammed. He recently, in 2016, relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina, where he is an associate imam at Masjid Al-Shaheed in Charlotte. Again, thank you and welcome to the program. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. We want to again ask our guests and apologize for the technical difficulties in starting so late. Inshallah, our next program will be much improved. First question we have, again, I want to clarify to our audience what the topic is for this afternoon, is the Clara Muhammad School Initiative as envisioned by Imam W.D. Mohammed. We want to begin with a first question for both of you, and that is, why did Imam Mohammed start the educational committee, and how does the Clara Muhammad School fit within that committee? If any of you, either of you know the purpose of that.
Now, since you are looking for what the Imam said, in my research, one of the things in one of his lectures that Imam Shaheed had edited for our school, he entitled it "Education is Sacred," and it was a topic the Imam had, but we used it in working with our school. One of the things he said was, nothing serves, I was asked to comment on how we can change or bring all of our schools up to a standard of excellence in teaching or learning, and how we can develop respected leadership in our schools. He said, nothing serves that need better than having a uniform curriculum for all levels of the school in our association. So he's not just talking about people just doing their own thing, even though we are individual, the same way he freed up masajids to be independent with their leadership under his umbrella of thinking, is what I would say, in terms of being students of Imam Muhammad. So he felt the same thing with our education system. It should be uniform.
I want to add to that. I think I recall Imam Muhammad saying, if we don't have a uniform Clara Muhammad School curriculum, then we don't have a Clara Muhammad School. We don't have Clara Muhammad schools. Imam Shaheed, the same question.
Yeah. Well, throughout the time of Imam's leadership, he was desiring to have a uniform curriculum that would be functioning throughout our association and our schools. Most of them called Clara Muhammad School. Some of the schools were not called that, and that was okay. But I don't know, many people who are online now will recall that Imam had more than one meeting. I recall one meeting that he had when we were when the community still owned the school in North Carolina, in Fidelia, North Carolina, and I'm sure he had more than one educational meeting there, where he would call people from education to come there. He desired, across that time that he was our leader, that we have a uniform curriculum. He wanted it that so that he wanted a curriculum so that you could transfer even from a Clara Muhammad school to a school that's a secular school in the city that you lived in. That's what he wanted. But Basimah and myself, we attended a meeting with him. I forget the date, but I remember that Imam Pleman was there, Imam Qasim Ahmed was there, Imam Yusuf Salim, who was coordinating the educational efforts through Imam's office, was there. And he told us then that he still was desiring to have uniform curriculum. Now, the committee that you're referring to was formed sometime after that.
What year was that?
I can tell you the year. 2001. November 2001 was when we met in Chicago. I was still director of education there in Milwaukee. Sister Basimah was the principal, and we went there. And he reiterated that he wanted uniform curriculum, you know. So the committee, the education committee, was formed after that. And I remember getting a call from the imam. I think he personally called people and asked them to be on the committee. I was one of the people. It wasn't just imams. There were different people from around the country. And sister, I think her name was Layla Hassan, out from California, was coordinating that effort. Subsequent to that, I think we had a few meetings and then we had online interaction. But, you know, subsequent to that, Imam Muhammad resigned from leading our association. I think that may have been 2003. I can't remember exactly when it was. At that time, I got a call by Sister Layla that said I wasn't on the committee anymore. Now, I didn't really accept that because Imam put me on there. Imam was the one to take me off. So I listened to her. I don't know what she was doing.
Was it ever explained to you why she?
Well, Imam, I assumed that because Imam had resigned from the leader of the community and from leading the imams, that she assumed that meant any imams on the committee couldn't be on the committee. That's my guess. I don't know. It was a decision that I had nothing to do with. But I do remember contacting the imam through his daughter. I can't remember who was there. It was either Indina there or Bakira, one of those. Well, it could have been Layla, one of his daughters. And she asked the imam. I said what I just said, that Imam, you put me on the committee, then you should be the one to take me off. And she told me that Imam said he knows what's going on, just leave it alone for that time being.
Right.
Subsequent to that, a committee was formed with Dr. The brother from New Jersey, a professor.
Mubashir?
No, his name is John. I'll think of his name.
Okay.
But Layla was also on there, and there were others. Brother from Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, was on the committee. So I don't know when they formed that, but I was not, and I don't think Basimah was either, invited to be on that committee, even though they sent us information about what was happening with the committee. I do remember one time when they asked to have a meeting with the imam there in Chicago, and I was present. And they presented a curriculum based on the Ascension, the Mirage. But I don't know how one of the things the imam said was that in that meeting we were in November 2001 was that, people were still not doing a unified thing. We had these meetings, but people were still doing their thing. And so I think that was still going on when that committee was formed, the last committee I'm aware of. But to this point, Sister Basimah could speak to that better than me. I don't know if all the schools have recently been given some kind of curriculum that is a kind of a universal curriculum like Imam was desiring. So I can't speak to that.
Okay. Do you know if the committee, education committee, is still in existence?
I can't say. I don't know. I have. I
see Sister Basimah shaking her head. So
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
No, we've never. Our school has never been invited to participate in anything national. We've had invitations from different Clara Muhammads, like the Clara Muhammad in Tennessee, or we've corresponded with people because of the 150 program that the brother started. And sometimes some of the people who will send a donation will send correspondence, but nothing on a national level at all.
Yeah, so we don't know where that national committee is.
Right.
I think it still exists on some level, because I have seen over the last 2 or 3 years trips that they had to different parts of the world related to that. So I don't have any particulars. I can't say.
Okay. And maybe inshallah,
one of the things
we're trying to have, if we can, some of those who are, if that committee still exists, some of them on the program to answer some of those questions.
Yeah. I'll think of the professor's name. He's at a school in New Jersey. Before we finish, I'll probably have his name. You could contact him and have him home. Sister
Basimah,
one of the main.
Yes, go ahead.
Layla will do it.
I was going to say one of the.
Go ahead, Sister Basimah.
Main points. One of the main points I remember the Imam speaking whenever we're at community meetings and there's question and answers. I remember one thing that stuck out with me in terms of having an Islamic curriculum based on all of our subjects. He said you can use them as guides. He said, but I would not encourage teachers to teach the Quran because they're not qualified.
That's right.
But he did say the main thing that we need to do regardless of whether we have a universal curriculum, but that's a foundation. He said it's in the training of our teachers. That's where focus should be.
That's right.
So the main focus of the education committee is to train the teachers.
Yes.
And being better teachers.
We should have a uniform methodology that we create, because you can take any curriculum and make little tweaks to correct it, because the curriculum is just a map. It's a guide post. And we could all have the exact same curriculum, and the teachers at individual schools choose completely different textbooks and still be following that uniform curriculum.
Right.
So it's really in how you teach the material that you're given, the concepts.
I can read you.
And that's
I can read you direct quote from Imam that supports what she just said. Imam said, "We don't want to teach Quran. We want to teach the subjects required for the level of education. That's what we want to teach. But we want to influence that teaching with Quran." Then he said, and many times you don't have to actually identify the Quran, but the one who's preparing it is influenced by the Quran. That's what she's talking about. Teacher training. It should be in the teacher training because like she said, who's qualified? Who can we say is qualified to teach the Quran? Who's qualified to go in the Quran and find materials that you need to use in the classroom? So that was what he was referring to.
So go ahead. So this seems that the educational committee was a plan for to start from one point to get to the next, because eventually you would want to have teachers who were qualified.
Yes.
But I guess the Imam was saying at this current point, most of the teachers that were not qualified to teach Quran.
Yes.
And I guess the more. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was saying, I think everything that we do with Islam has to follow Islamic logic. In the same way we have 3 steps to a city of security, I think those same 3 steps will take us to an enlightened curriculum and educational institutions.
Yeah, she's right. He spoke one time many years ago, and the Quran is called An-Nur, the light. Right. He said, but do you advance by studying the light, or do you advance by studying what the light is shining on?
Right.
Right. So if you follow the logic that the light, we can use the sunlight, for example. If I physically look at the sun too long, it will I won't be able to see.
Right.
But if I study what the sunlight is shining on, I get knowledge, I get light, but it's not light that's going to put my eyes out.
Right.
So Islamic logic says that the Quran gives us insight of what's the word in the Quran? Ulul albab. And it's translated men and women of understanding. Imam translated that term and said it means the one who's been given the foundational knowledge of things. People who have been given insight into the first order of things. That's ulul albab. He said, unfortunately, most of them are not religious leaders. Because what religious leaders have done is they get the knowledge of God and they hoard it. They don't share it.
Right.
He says, but the one who truly fit ulul albab is scientists and whatever who get knowledge and then they use it to benefit all of the creation that they can. And there's a passage in the Quran that says God has created everything to broadcast knowledge and mercy. Everything is knowledge, science. And so science as a mercy is what ulul albab do. But those who take it and hoard it up, they're the ones who have these secret groups, and they're the ones who have hurt the advancement of humankind. So a school should not be a school to just teach Quran or etc. It should be a school that the Quran has trained those individuals to respect the creation, the knowledge that comes from creation, and take your students, Imam say, to the creation. Teach them science. Teach them the logic that's in science. That if you do that, you are teaching Quran.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hop around different questions that we had. I had here. I asked certain people what questions would they have for y'all on this program. Did the Imam lay out a curriculum for the school, or did he want the committee to do that? Did he start a curriculum, or did he put the committee together and wanted y'all to lay out a curriculum?
I'll let Basimah go first.
Is this Basimah?
I would like to say yes and no.
Okay.
I say yes in that I remember one time he was saying, when you talk about how language evolves, he said, if you want to understand the meaning of a word in the Quran, you got to look only at the Quran and every place that it is written in Quran to get the meaning of it, because language changes over time. And I think all of the teachings that he brought us from before the 70s, before he became the leader, up until he passed, and continuing if we still are studying what he taught us about the Quran, about this religion, and about life, period. I think, yes, he laid the foundation for the Quran, because what is our purpose for education? It is to bring us another creation, right? After those stages in those different environments that we're placed in, then we're supposed to become free and become another creation here
Mm-hmm.
that we express in the social movement. So I think, yes, he did leave us the foundations for the curriculum, but it's also the best teacher is usually the best student. So in studying what he taught, in us becoming excellent human beings and how to create the environment so that our children become excellent human beings, then the students who are the teachers have to study how he talked about different subjects and concepts in terms of developing the human being and the intellect. So.
What were some of the credentials, if there were any, that the Imam used to put the board members together? Would he just did the Imam choose the people on the board? How many were there? And like, was there like a certain criteria that of people he needed on that board?
I couldn't be specific in terms of how he chose members of the board. But I know myself, having been someone who was in education. I got my degrees in education, and I'm working at an educational institution. And as an imam, I have to be about education. But I think that's one criteria that you appreciate learning, you appreciate knowledge, and how knowledge can help to make the world a better place for all human beings.
Yeah.
And then I think that I would believe he chose people who they love people. They love dealing with people. And because how can you teach a child if you don't love children? You know, because all the children that come into school are not going to be on the same level. Some are going to be difficult to deal with. But he said something when he came to Milwaukee once to speak on the concept of Tawheed. And he said that if you don't understand the students that you're trying to educate, he said you will end up hurting their growth rather than help. And he said, now I don't want to criticize the learned people in our community. He said, but too often people who are learned people, when they go to an effort, they try to come out with what they know before they know what they're addressing, what's needed to raise up, to educate, to raise up. He said, and we end up hurting the effort. He said they should study who they're trying to raise up.
Study the form.
Study the form.
Study the form.
And let the form dictate what they come out in terms of their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Too often educated people, they want to come with what they know before they know they're trying to raise up. Well, I think they use those criteria in looking for people to be a part of the education committee. That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever at any point?
It's also.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was asking.
No, I said it's also along the.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's the technology we're over.
Yeah.
It's
I know, my technology down here is really bad. I think it's also the same criteria that we use for Assura. It's not just people who are learned in the religion who should be in the Assura, but it's also those who are learned in religion and learned in the skill that's needed for whatever the situation is the Assura is being brought.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You know, if the building needs a new roof, don't bring me in because I can't help you.
Right. Understood.
Yeah, I think she's speaking to what Imam called Islamic democracy.
Right.
And that Islamic democracy is in competition with the other ideologies about democracy that's in the world. you know, because, you know, we just had the election, right? And even though the quote, quote, people have spoken, we still have a problem with people respecting the process. You know, Islam doesn't accept that. Islam doesn't accept that because we have order and discipline. That's what Islam teaches us. And but first you have to have respect. Taqwa. Imam in describing the word or defining the word taqwa, he said, respect for that which should be respected. Then we know in our religion, our 6th article of faith says that everything has to be respected. Because everything is created by God and ordered under God's authority, and either has a benefit or harm depending on whether or not you respect it or the level to which you respect it. And I think that when we talk about teacher training, you have to teach it. You have to understand, make sure teachers understand this because of the precious potential in those children that they could bring out if they did that.
Okay.
If they do it right.
Alhamdulillah. How much
That's correct.
in the process from that, when y'all were working with the educational group, how much cooperation was given by the masajid that had Clara Muhammad schools, or was there any relationship with the masajid?
That's a great question, but I'm not going to answer it first.
Sister Basimah.
She's still dealing.
Individual masjid? Do you mean individual masjids?
Yes, like from what I was just looking at, I went to Wikipedia looking at Clara Muhammad schools, and it says technically it's supposed to be 74 Clara Muhammad schools in the United States.
Okay.
But in the process, because the committee was started in 2001, was there any like cooperation or feedback from or help from the masajid that had Clara Muhammad schools in helping to determine the curriculum and helping you or those who are on the board that make decisions?
Yeah, I think one correction, Brother Ahmed. The committee that I think you're referring to started subsequent to 2001. So
okay,
could have been, I don't know, could have been 2003. I don't know when.
Okay.
But we were there meeting because we were all connected to education and wanted to get imams. At the point we went there, we were trying to quote, quote, Islamize our curriculum. That was the language we used. How can we incorporate Islamic concept and whatever by imam's direction into our curriculum? That's why we went there. But I think that you said 74. There was supposed to be 74.
Yeah, as Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is.
Well, I think that there's probably only about 10 or 11 full-time schools, and maybe there are that many part-time schools, weekend schools. Because here in Charlotte, there's just a weekend school that operates on Sundays, so you have a lot of those operating. And based on that, it's going to vary around the country.
Right.
In Milwaukee, what we needed, the masjid couldn't provide it. We needed money.
Right.
We needed money, and we also needed qualified teachers. And our masjid was too small to provide either one of those. I won't even talk about the hard-headedness and obstinate behavior of some of them, because both of us were from out of town. And I don't think we ever broke that. I don't think we ever tamed that horse, that wild horse. We were from out of town. What nerve we have coming to Milwaukee and establishing a school to the level that we would want to establish it. See? And so I'm sure you have that same kind of behavior around the country. But our biggest problem was not that, because the masjid didn't have any resources like that. The community I'm talking about. We had to go outside. We had to learn how to articulate what we're about into the broader community. And we had great success with that. And then, of course, Milwaukee was one of the cities, or the first city, where the private schools could receive state funds. That's the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program that you were talking about when you read Basimah's bio. The Milwaukee Parental Choice Program continues. And what it does is the state gives a certain amount of money to each family, and that family designates the private school that it wants that money to go to. So Milwaukee's part of that program. And there's pretty much almost every state has some degree of it. But Milwaukee had the first one.
Okay.
And so
I'm sorry, which one was
And
that?
that makes and that also makes our journey a lot different from other schools. While we have some financial difficulties, our main financial difficulties is jumping through all of the technical hoops they give us. It's not so much trying to get money.
Right.
I mean, there's even public schools always need more money, but just like during this COVID situation, we were able as a part, and I hope other masjids and schools participated, but the PPP money that came down for businesses, we were able to get that. And if you follow the guidelines correctly, it ends up not being a loan, but a grant. But you got to have good accountants and people that are savvy with following how the feds do everything to get that money. Additionally, under the Title program, I don't know if you're familiar with Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IX, all of those titles are additional federal supplemental funds. And what a lot of our schools don't understand when we struggle to begin the process is private schools have a right to exist in the U.S. And any federal money that comes down to a state for public schools, at least 10% is designated for private schools. Now, the more private schools you have, that 10% grows to be less per school, but still, since the majority of us don't go after that money, it ends up being a decent pot. For example, with the COVID, the feds sent down an additional, and it's based on your title money from last year. We got about maybe an additional 80,000 that we could use for technology, for training teachers to deal with the students, to even get counseling for the students, counseling for the parents. And then the state came down and did a smaller piece, but it's still funds that we're able to use to even say get hotspots for parents who can't afford technology or internet at home, so that their students can still work on the Chromebooks that we sent home.
Okay.
So our struggle is a little different than most masjids because we have state tuition payments.
Right. Okay. Because that's this what we're talking about does lead into some of the questions I had about the finances for the Clara Muhammad School, that the economy that would support the Clara Muhammad School, because there's been discussion regarding making the Clara Muhammad School like a charter school.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think that's a good thing, just because I think I'm not absolutely positively sure, but to be charter, you would have, I mean, you can't run it the way you would basically want it. You know, you have influence from the government or to teach whatever they designate you teach. But so was there discussion about this in the educational committee, or just give me your personal thought regarding how were the Clara Muhammad schools supposed to be financially supported in order to run?
Well, we always talked about public versus private. And even without the choice movement, if you have a good educational plan, a lot of schools have talked about going charter. Charter just means it's a private public school, so that there are public school requirements that you would have to follow. Number one, meaning it can't be religious. Mm-hmm. However, if you study education in the U.S., a lot of Jewish schools followed that plan. But after school, they taught religious studies, and the students were required to remain there after school, whereas everybody else goes home. The Jewish kids started getting their religious instruction after school. So that is a possibility if people really don't have wealthier parents or donors in the masjid that are going to offer money. The second thing I would say is you always need to find somebody who's a good person in the community for networking, because it's really about sharing your vision and finding people who are like-minded and putting your money where your mouth is, or your skills, or whatever.
Yeah. At one
and it's
point,
easier said than done.
Yeah.
Now, before you answer that, but did the Imam want us to have charter schools, or did he want us to have private schools where, because the effort of do for self, and where we wouldn't have to be flexible with anyone else, but to teach our religion openly, clearly, the way we wanted?
I don't know if he said he preferred which type of school he preferred, charter or private. I don't think he said
No,
that.
but he did say that the less governmental entanglement, the better. He said, I don't like going after federal grants because they have too many hoops for you to through. He said, if you're going after money, go after private foundations. Okay. So I'm thinking that logic is also in how you establish your school.
Right.
She's making a good point there, and I think that one of the obstacles for our school, because obviously we don't have the business development in our association to really support schools. We pray in the future we'll have that, but we don't. Some cities have a good source of private business funds from members of our community. Most don't. And so now where does that leave those cities? Well, weekend schools. You can do weekend schools. You have Friday and Saturday. You can do weekend schools. And that way, you can get volunteers. Many people in the community have degrees, and you can have them help operate the school on the weekend. And ma'am did suggest that once. She said, if you can't do a full-time school, do a quality weekend school. That's the way to go. But the other thing that I think we have a fear of it. We have a fear of it. People mentioned it. He said that the Imam said, don't go after, shy away from governmental entanglements. U.S. government, state government. Well, we were into it in Milwaukee. They're still into it in Milwaukee because of the parental choice program. The Milwaukee parental choice program. Okay. And she talked about all the hoops they have to go through. That's government. He said a private, because that's business people, and business people usually don't have all those entanglements. In fact, he said, I encourage you to go to the business community outside for funding. And that's what we did. And we found what he said to be true.
So we're saying outside, meaning outside of our association?
That's right. Okay. That's right. I'm talking about
Jewish foundations, Catholic foundations.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you, I guarantee you every decent sized city has private funding that Clara Muhammad schools could seek and perhaps have some success. We're not talking about international, I'm talking about locally, like in your state or in your city, like you're in New York. I'm sure in New York City has business people who have set up foundations and whatever to provide money for private school education. Yeah. But most of us fear that. I believe, because over the years we made at least 2 or 3 presentations at the national convention about what we were doing in Milwaukee with that. We never got anybody who wanted to have us come there to talk to them about it and and share the knowledge we had in our experience. So
Why-
I think we have a
yeah.
fear of that.
Why do you think that fear is? Like, what are we afraid of?
I think, first of all, this is just me. I think we're afraid. Pardon? I think
Hard work.
Said hard work.
I think we fear to open up and let people outside see what we're doing.
Mm.
Now, Imam didn't like that. He
Right.
did not like that. He felt that we should be going this way instead of this way.
Right.
He told me that personally. He said he did not like us circling the wagons, just being among ourselves. Didn't like that. And I know he liked our school because we were about that logic that he was talking about. Go out into the community, open up your arms, and if there's things you need to correct it. Now, for example, if you get grants from any institution, I guarantee you're going to have to show them your financial records for at least 3 years past. And if they don't like your financial records, you're not going to get any money. So you have to clean up your financial practices.
Right.
You have to have a viable.
You have to have financial practices.
Exactly. You have to have it. And they require that. And so I think that's
the curriculum.
Yes, you have to show yourself to be competent when you are asking people outside of our association to give money to your effort. And we can be. We're very confident if we would follow Imam's instruction, his logic, how he showed us to operate. We're very confident we do that.
Mm-hmm. I want to address something you mentioned before regarding I remember the Imam saying at, I think it was a Ramadan session, about the weekend schools, because financially the community isn't able to afford a full-time school presently, where the teachers are paid and the lunch and programs, so on and so forth. He said then, if you can't afford it, pay the teachers and stuff like that, then to focus on weekend schools.
Yes.
You know, so because I mean, I live in Harlem, and I remember one of the things that stood out in my mind with a lot of the African Muslims who were coming here from Senegal and Guinea and Gambia, is that like immediately I noticed they would have weekend schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would be in their masjid, and then the sajid they would have weekend schools, teaching their children their education, Islamic education, very important to them.
Yes.
Mainly they were memorizing Quran, but they had Islamic studies. I think if anything, for the larger community, we should at least begin there, where we have weekend schools.
Yes.
And then build from there where we can afford teachers and so on and so forth.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's correct. As a matter of fact, if you could perfect that, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, when the Muslim does anything, he seeks to perfect it.
Right.
Right. So if we want a full-time school, for example, then perfect the weekend school.
Right.
Because
you don't have curriculum.
Right.
Right.
You don't have to have a lot of resources. If you already have a masjid,
right,
you have facilities where you could do that.
Right.
Then see yourself growing from that.
Right.
I think that when we came to Milwaukee, they had a building. That was about it. They didn't have a curriculum. They didn't have books. They didn't have money. They didn't have teachers. They had an idea. Is that right? Am I saying that correctly? Okay. So basically, she was the principal. Hey, she had a budget. I don't know what it was, right? So she had to make all these
allowance my husband gave me.
That's a shot. I just took a shot. So you had to make all these calls from all over the country,
right?
Who had some kind of qualification, because we didn't have that. So at the last minute, here comes her mother. Here comes a friend, two friends in Boston. Here comes people that were willing to make the sacrifice to help build it up. And you have to do that if you're going to build up anything. Now, we didn't know God was going to bless us with the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program. We didn't know that. We had no idea of that.
We ain't never even heard of it.
Never.
Yeah.
Can you explain that again? Was it Milwaukee for Choice, you said?
Go ahead, tell them.
Milwaukee Parental Choice Program is a state-funded program where the state tax funds for education follow the student. So if the student goes to a private school, the state funds goes. Now, the difference is in the public school setting, whatever the state money is matched by the federal money. And you can go after city bonds and that kind of thing if they need it. But the private schools do not get the matching funds. That stays with the public school. We only get the state funds.
Okay.
So the contention between the parental program and the private schools getting that state funding is they did a longitudinal study for 12 years, and they said, side by side with the same demographics, our schools are doing really no better than the public school, except some of the elite private schools. But on average, they're doing no better than the public school. But the reality is we're doing it for less than half of what they pay the public schools.
Right.
And that's where the fear is. That's why we're the competition, because they'll start taking money from public schools and maybe giving it to some of the private schools, and they don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Current day, like presently, because with the phenomenon of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of all the schools have been like operated through the internet and Zoom. What are your thoughts? I mean, have you seen using the internet as also being a tool to help with the Clara Muhammad schools in our community?
Oh, yeah, because if we really get tech savvy with this, one of the problems that we've had is finding really good math teachers. Right. Well, I have access to 2 really good math teachers, but they don't live in Milwaukee. Because of COVID, I'm able to hire some part-time math teachers that address the need that we had, and they're not living in the city right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So on some levels, that's a plus. And even as you guys can see, a lot of the Muslim imams are starting classes online and able to make funds that they might not have thought about or didn't have that technology. And they say necessity is the mother of invention. Right. Everybody gets creative when the bottom line is, I got to make some money for my family. So,
yeah, I think she's right. We started we decided to do a tafsir class every day during Ramadan. So we did that for 30 days. 30 days, and we're doing it 2 days a week now, and we have about 15 to 20 people on a regular basis. So we, you don't want to sing the praises of COVID-19, but Allah's in charge of everything. Right. Everything's a sign from God.
Right. It's time for us to stop.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's time for us to stop and regroup.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Ahmed, you all have had this experience, because I know you all do Juma on Friday and etc. But we had people tell us, elderly people who had traveled a long distance, they really love the fact that we do Juma now online, because now they can get to it. They can come. Before they couldn't come.
Right.
Or if we had meetings, they come from work. They don't have time to go to the meeting. But now they can make it. And I think when and if COVID becomes a thing of the past, so to speak, I think we should still have this online thing, because we can maximize things by doing that.
Absolutely. I think, I've been thinking about this. I think that it's a new era. It's going to be like the post-COVID era. And I think that's the era. Everything now will be hybrid. That's what they're calling hybrid. Like my sons are in my oldest son is in last year high school, and he's in Buffalo. His school is here in New York, but he's doing all the schooling online. And inshallah, he'll come back for the latter part of the school where they can have the, inshallah, actual graduation. But I think even businesses, everything is going to, because it costs less. Yes. You don't have to pay for, expenses and travel and stuff like that. Right. And that's really I think, I mean, I was just talking to my wife probably 2 days ago, I was just laughing to myself, but how Allah works. It's like it's taking us into another era. Like we had the era of radio, and then when television came out, the era of television and internet and so on and so forth. So I think it's Allah giving us a little push into the future, and actually making things a lot easier for us.
As a side note, I have a friend, Nasif Majid. She knows Nasif. He
just one.
Huh?
One.
He told me that he was he invested in the stock market, just to show you what you're saying is true. And he said that he just had some extra money, and he had taken a course on how to invest in the market. So in January of this year, he invested in Zoom. He said you would not believe how much money he made.
Yes, I would.
And he was blown away. That's because everybody's using it.
Right.
And I don't know what format you all are using here. It's not Zoom. But that's we're definitely in a situation where it's going to be hybrid from now on, I believe.
Right.
I think people are thinking that you couldn't. I thought it too. I mean, it's not the same as if you're in a classroom and the teacher is there. But with all the things you can do with this format, it kind of replaces that on some level.
I think because I'm also in it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister.
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay.
No, I said I was just agreeing.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I agree with what you're saying because I'm also in a class. You remember Rashad's class, Quran study and leadership class online. And one of the benefits of Zoom is that the classes are recorded, so that once the class is over, I mean, you don't have to spend so much time jotting down notes. You can always go back, and just watch the class at your own time. And jot down the notes, and I think that's gonna help everybody. It's gonna go to college, so on and so forth.
They had this a few years ago. They had this, in these educational circles, they keep coming out with these terms. A few years ago, it was multiple intelligences.
Okay.
And that's recognizing that people learn at different pace. And with this technology, you could address that. You really want the teacher to have multiple intelligences and be able to extract from all these different sources to expose the child to that which might actualize the child. And so I think with this with the technology used now, people who are afraid to use it, they have to use it. Like she said, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
And I think we're going to see great benefits in the future from that.
Before I move on to the next question, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to share with you, we just had our award ceremony, virtual award ceremony this past week for the elementary one day and the middle and high school a second day. But I was inspired by the students in 3rd and 4th grade, where the teachers created awards for how the students were able to create videos to show the other students and sometimes the teacher how to work programs like DocHub, how to submit their work on DocHub, how to use the tools in DocHub. And you might not have seen that in a regular day-to-day classroom because nobody would have played with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Alhamdulillah. Before we move on to the next question, someone sent in a question for you, Imam Shaheed. about I guess they want to know more about their the tafsir class we were talking about. Like, I guess how they could be a part of it, or if it's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on.
How do they get a part of that?
Okay, it's Mondays. Pardon me. It's Wednesday at 12, which is Eastern Standard Time, and then Saturday. In fact, the imam from our community is conducting it now. We do it on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the format is go to meeting. GOTOMEETING. Go to meeting.com, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And if they're ready, I can give them the number because I got it down by heart.
Okay.
It's 247-015-661. 247-015-661. That's the number you use to get on. So it's Wednesdays
the meeting code.
Pardon?
You said the meeting code.
Yes,
okay.
The meeting code. Yeah, 247-015-661.
And just so that the audience knows, this show is being recorded, and you'll be able to go online, go to YouTube even. New Freedom Exchange. That's New Freedom X, the letter X change, on YouTube.
Oh wow!
If you missed the information.
And you know what?
Yes, go ahead.
You know what else this technology is allowing us to do? Now we have a virtual community. Now all the years that I was in the part of the community, we kept saying community.
Right.
We never had a community. It was a word. Now at least we have a virtual community.
Right.
You can actually, because I have this ongoing invitation to join Philadelphia community.
Mm.
They have every Sunday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So I have the call information, and I can go there, and they'll have 50, 60, 70 people on there.
Right.
And it's other places like that are doing that. And I think that we're going to find that maybe this is Allah's gift to us,
right,
to finally be able to connect with each other without having to travel great distances and whatever. Right. And my hope is that one day we're going to have a shura meetings that has to do with what does it look like for our community in the future, right, and what do we need to do to get there? Because we never had that meeting, we never had that talk since Imam Mohammed passed away. The imams met twice. Yeah, the imams met twice. But do you know anything they brought back from the meeting? Right. I don't know anything. Right. They met twice in Louisville. I got nothing. I kind of figured nobody else got it. Right. So, but we need that as a community. Absolutely. We need to be able to communicate with each other, and we need to plan our steps forward, following what Imam established, because we know he followed the way of our prophet, and peace be upon him. Right. So I'm praying for that, and I hope that. I think what you're saying is absolutely important and needed and correct, and it's on the minds of the sincere believers in the community. Because I'm thinking back to a time like prior to the conventions that we had, like starting in 1989. The only time I was really able to be around our association in such numbers and that spirit, and be able to share with each other in the language of Imam Muhammad were the conventions. So I look forward to once a year as a young person, meeting with other young Muslims, discussing Imam Muhammad and in the future of our community. Because, being born in Harlem, raised in Harlem, currently Harlem, there's no Muslim community life in the association of Imam Muhammad. Having a Juma is not community life. That's right. That's not community life at all. What are the young people doing outside of Juma on Saturday, Sunday? How is the masjid being used? Do the imams speak to the young people? Are they, as Imam Muhammad said that every imam should be
having at least 2 young men that they're raising
Yes.
To basically succeed them once they pass, so that
Yes.
this work continues. How many imams are tutoring younger imams to replace them? So, but this community, but because of the internet and Zoom, it has definitely been beneficial, and is also, I'm saying this right now, it's shining light on where you are. You can't any longer hide and say like I'm doing great works. Okay, where are you doing this work? You know, and it's, in my opinion, it's, as Muslims, it's not a lot of great work when you're getting most of your finances outside of the community.
Yeah.
You know, to build businesses, so on and so forth. This as we come from a long history of doing for self. But that's the main thing. We need community life, particularly young people here, and particularly in New York. People are going to New Jersey or going online just to have some semblance of community life in Harlem. But inshallah, one day that will change.
You know, maybe there'll be in the near future a group or individual, whatever, that can send out communications where all these things are happening. You know, they say in Los Angeles they have this meeting online and this here. You can, we really need that. I don't know exactly how you would do it, but a kind of a clearinghouse for information on how to get online with our communities around the country. That would be very helpful. That education committee you're talking about would be would benefit greatly if they would have an online thing where educators can get together and have discussions about the schools and how do we make our schools better, how we find it's the same talk we're having now. This needs to happen on a national basis, I believe.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, this is coming to our mind right now, the forefront. If anything that we can take from this talk today for this topic of the Clara Muhammad schools, I believe the most beneficial thing we can do nationally as a community is to begin working on Clara Muhammad's weekend schools. You know, because we can't focus. I mean, it's very hard the other way. But if we can like have that on the weekends, that could even be hybrid. Some people can be in the masjid, and it could be Zoomed, where your child could be at home learning. That could really be very beneficial for our community.
Yes, sir.
Just moving along, but we're on the same topic. Recently, the book came out on the life of Clara Muhammad, called "Mother of the Nation, Clara Evans Muhammad, wife of Elijah Muhammad, mother of Imam W.D. Muhammad," by Dr. R. Zakia Muhammad. I just want to hold this up. I think it's on Amazon. You can download this book. And the reason I'm holding this up is just to begin with a question of what, if anything, what emphasis or comments did Imam Muhammad give regarding his mother in terms of the educational committee to share with y'all regarding his mother in the Clara Muhammad School?
Just her legacy.
Yes.
How she lived, how much she cared about the school, the little small things she did to show the students how much she cared about them learning and how important their future was. And even if she didn't have a teaching degree, she was there for whatever's needed to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we talk about with our students as the legacy.
Yeah. Some people have, misunderstand, and they say that Sister Clara Muhammad literally started our school. And that's a yes and a no. The no is that she didn't organize to have our Clara Muhammad school. The yes is that her model and example, like Lucina said, in terms of being a patron of the school, supporter of the school, coming out. Of course, you know, in those days, in her life, early days, there were very few communities, I'll say, that we had. Detroit, Chicago, maybe Milwaukee, but it was very small in those days. And they said that the Sister Clara, whenever they had their graduation ceremony, she always came out, always gave each one of the children a flower, you know. And the story
Red
of
rose.
her, what? A rose, that's right.
I just said a red rose.
A red rose, that's right. And the story of her telling that truant officer that he is not going to take little Wallace anywhere. I'm going to educate my own child. That story there is inspiration, has been the inspiration for the establishment and continuing process of having our own schools. So her inspiration, being the wife of the leader, Elijah Muhammad. By the way, many don't know that during the period of time that Elijah Muhammad was in prison, the person who ran the Nation of Islam was Sister Clara. Because she would visit him.
That's right.
And he would give her instructions. She came back, and they better carry it out.
Right.
So she is her story is her inspiration is the very bedrock of our educational system. If we are, in my opinion, doing it correctly,
Right.
We don't give up the right, as the Imam said, to educate our own children. We never give that right up. We never give that right up, and she represented that.
Right. When I think of Clara Muhammad, I think of sacrifice for our community, to be independent, to have that independent mind and thinking. I'm a, alhamdulillah, graduate of Clara Muhammad School in Harlem, and attended the University of Islam only for half a year before it closed.
Mm-hmm.
But then my mother, we had to go to public school, which was like my mother actually kept us out of school a year for a year for 2 years. My brother's telling me 2 years because waiting for the Mohammed University to reopen. This is during the transition, and so we had to go to public school, and my brothers and sisters hated it. I mean, we hated to go because there was so much love and concern for us in Mohammed University. Particularly like where we grew up in Harlem, the stores were owned by Muslim African Americans, restaurants. My father was a chef in the Salam restaurant. And it was just that beautiful atmosphere of concern, the teachers who had love and concern for you. Mm-hmm. And then my personal experience had to go to the public school, and I remember the discipline that was lost for myself going to public school, because after a while, I used to come to the class. We used to be in school. I remember myself going to public school and sitting straight up, the hands folded, straight up waiting for the teacher. And I'm like the only one in public school. But this had been my training from the University of Islam. But after a while, I think I was in public school for about maybe 5 years before we went back to Clara Muhammad School. But then I lost all that discipline, started getting a little bit of trouble. And so my mother was happy when the Clara Muhammad Schools opened again in the 80s. Right. And then that discipline and understanding and care came back. And I thank Allah for that. And I think about the sacrifices all the parents of the Clara Muhammad School went through, to keep us there like 5 days a week with food and volunteering, the transportation, just to try to make sure that their children had a better future. And this is really the seriousness of this topic, because we won't have a community if we don't pass on this knowledge and education and history of our community. It's a very serious matter. We don't, like I said, this is the nucleus of our community. So we have to get this curriculum right. We have to get our Clara Muhammad schools up to par and really be something to focus on around the nation. And again, I just want to emphasize this book, Clara Muhammad. You can go to, I believe it's on Amazon. Dr.
It is. I
Zakia.
bought it.
Yes, she was my principal at Muhammad's that Clara Muhammad School in Harlem, Master Malcolm Shabazz. There's no Clara Muhammad School there now, but inshallah one day they will return, and inshallah maybe start with weekend schools. But I suggest all the masajid, if you find it too hard financially, keep a Clara Muhammad School. Then don't settle for subpar education and teachers not being able to get paid. Just revamp and focus on weekend schools until you can afford and really support teachers and a lunch program and a curriculum, so on and so forth, inshallah. Did the Imam speak to that? The financial aspect of the teachers being paid, and or did you all discuss that in the curriculum when you had the education committee of being paid for their work?
Yeah, we didn't have that problem. We by the time we met with the Imam, we had maybe we were not paying teachers as much as we would have liked to pay them. We certainly couldn't compete with public schools, but we did. And I don't know, she could speak to that better than me in terms of where the school is now, in terms of teacher pay, health insurance, 501, what do you call it, 401k, those kind of things.
Okay.
But we were able to do that to some extent. Most schools don't have that, obviously, because they don't have that steady stream of income. The only way you're going to have that is you're going to have a steady stream of income. And I think most of our schools suffer from the lack of resources to do that.
Yeah.
I don't recall having that conversation with them.
I do remember him stating that we need to build businesses in the community so that the businesses can help support the schools.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Right.
We end up having businesses, but we end up being individuals, and we no longer are community minded. And people don't make the commitment like we used to. If my family will put up $100 a month to make sure this happens. You can get a pledge, and people won't back it up.
Right.
So people can't live on unfulfilled pledges, and that's our reality.
Right.
Yeah, we had over the years we had educational banquets with the idea of raising money that way, and mainly from the community itself. Yeah, but we end up making after expenses $3,000, $2,000. That couldn't. We saw real quick that couldn't get it. So we kept having them, but they were mostly social interaction things. Banquets and whatever that doesn't get it. You have to have strong businesses if you're going to support a school. Right. And I think that if we didn't have money coming from outside, I don't know if the school in Milwaukee could have survived over the years. Right. I don't think it could have, because we had to repair the building. Yeah, it wouldn't have. Yeah, we had to repair the building. Yeah, and of course they're still paying the construction mortgage that we had to do in order to repair the building. The school is still paying it, right? Not complete.
Yeah, we owe about 140 left on it.
Let's see.
So if anybody wants to send us 140,000, pay that off.
I want to open the lines now to the audience if they have any questions for our panel. Again, the topic for today's New Africa Talks is the Clara Muhammad School Initiative. as envisioned by Imam W.D. Mohammed. And our guests are Sister Basimah Abdullah and Imam Ronald B. Shaheed. And if you could type in your question and comments for the conversation. Sorry for that. Question.
I agree, sister.
Yeah.
Belita, you're correct.
When can't establishment these businesses without family life? And family life starts with marriage, which we lack in. That's just definitely and very obvious. And in fact, Sister Clara Muhammad and Imam Muhammad are an example of that. You know, they had strong family with concern for not just their family, but the group, the community. Because Sister Clara Muhammad, may Allah have mercy on her, forgive her sins, grant her high station in paradise. She did manage and run the Nation of Islam, not only when the Honorable Muhammad was in prison because of not accepting the draft, but also during the time when Honorable Muhammad had to run and was being pursued by some other members of the Nation of Islam who didn't like the fact that he would have been chosen to succeed the leadership after Farah Muhammad left. So it was a longer period of time. She was still taking care of the Nation of Islam at that time. And Brother Mustafa Al-Hama, he says, Assalamu alaikum, just something to think of. And then I leave, what do you think of forced vaccinations? Are you prepared? Assalamu alaikum. Well, what do y'all think of that topic?
Well, first of all, I honestly don't think it'll be forced. We will still have on the record, people can opt out of vaccinations for their students. We have students still at the school, even though vaccinations are required to come to school. Parents can sign a waiver, and they understand by the policy of the school, if such an outbreak in whatever they didn't get vaccinated in breaks out in the school, you have to stay home until there's an all clear, because we don't want to be responsible for your health.
Right.
Personally, I'm torn because I grew up being vaccinated. I vaccinated my children, but now my children are split down the middle as to whether they want to vaccinate their children. So I got half my children believe it's a conspiracy to control the masses, so they don't trust the vaccine makers, because it's not till 20 years down the line they'll have this whole list of side effects for everything they give you. So Big Pharma, I understand a lot of people think it's just all about making money and they don't trust them. But on the other hand, I'm looking at this virus that has crippled our whole world, and scientists are coming together and finding what Allah says He already created. He said, for every disease, there's a cure. We just have to go about finding it. So
I want to say this, but I would like you to comment, Shaheed. This is a topic that I think this is a topic that if we had, because I'm not aware, this time I'm saying if, I'm not sure exactly, that the education committee should, one of the topics they should be addressing, what is our position as a community on vaccination? Who has done the research in our community regarding the vaccination and so on and so forth? Because we have to look at everything. You know, we as particularly as African Americans, aside from the people just like don't trust government, but there's a good reason historically as African Americans to not trust vaccines and so on and so forth. The Tuskegee experiment, we have smallpox to Native Americans. So it's not like unfounded, but we have to be a rational and balanced people. We have we should literally be doing examinations and knowing about all these particular vaccines and things that are required in schools even for ourselves. But I'm saying that's a subject that the Clara and Muhammad School and the educational committee in our association should be working on ensure and group.
The scientists in our community should be studying that and giving us some top tier on it. I agree.
Right. Imam Shaheed, your thoughts on the vaccination?
Well, I know for a fact Imam Mohammed took the flu vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Flu vaccination. Said that. He told us that he was catching the flu so much, and he said his doctor told him that when he heard he said it was kind of funny. He said the doctor told him, when you hear the word influenza, you should come and get a vaccination. That's how bad he was suffering from the catching the flu. Mm-hmm. So he did take the flu vaccination. Mm-hmm. But I understand, got a lot of us who distrust that and they don't take the flu vaccination. I myself take it. Mm-hmm. I take that, and I also have taken the what's the shots? Is it for not? Is it for pneumonia? No, pneumonia. Maybe it's not pneumonia, but whatever.
You're not talking about shingles,
flu shot, but it's the shot you take, and once you take it, you don't have to take it anymore. I recently took those, and I understand people's reluctance. I'll use that in terms of vaccination, but I submit to you that how are we going to function in this United States, and we letting people put all this distrust in our minds?
Yeah.
I think you should use your common sense, and you should make a decision. I don't think there's going to be any forced vaccinations, just like they're not forcing people to wear the mask. I've seen some circumstances where I want to force somebody to wear it because if they're saying we don't have a vaccination and the only way to prevent it is everybody wear a mask and you can cut down on 95% of passing the virus, why the hell won't you wear a mask? What's the problem? But you still have people, they think their individual rights are violated, and the Republicans, because the president doesn't wear them, and now they say it's 49 people connected with the president's office have the virus now, including his son. They just announced.
And
they won't wear
them. Secret Service.
Yeah.
Now they got them on now.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah,
go ahead.
You don't take the vaccination. Wear a mask, then, man. Wash your hands. Cut down on all these gatherings where everybody's all up on each other and drinking and doing all of that. See, one thing that COVID has done is it has identified America's courtship with not being responsible for your own behavior. We wouldn't have so many problems we have in this society because people won't be responsible for their own selves. And you can call the individual freedom if you want to, but if you are threatening someone else's life or whatever, it's not your freedom anymore. You can't do that. I don't think democracy says that, and yet you have people interpret that way. Everybody in this store has a mask on, and you walk in without a mask, and you think that's okay. So you're gonna spread your germ to us when we catch it, but that's your individual. No, it's not your individual freedom to give me the germ. So I think this pandemic is causing us to examine personal freedom, personal space, all these things that you have to examine, even if you're in a democracy. No, we can't force you to do anything, but we can say that we don't want what you got coming out among us. And I'll give you an example in the history of the prophet. There was a man, they say, that committed something wrong and no one knew about it. And in a big gathering, he wanted the prophet, present peace be upon him, to let him confess to the people. The prophet said, no, you can't do it. In other words, whatever you're doing wrong, keep that to yourself. You don't have the permission to spread what you have among other people. Now we can apply that to this whole permissiveness about men getting married, women getting married, and we don't know what sex were you assigned at birth? What the heck is that? God already established that. You're a man or a woman at birth. What do you mean? You mean somebody other than God assigned you what your sex is? This is what it leads to. We're seeing it now. And COVID is bringing it back home, I believe. Now your personal freedom to just be however you want to be is in question. Because now my physical health, whether or not I'm going to live, is based on whether or not I can get away from you because you coughing on everybody and you got the germ. And so I think that it's something for reasonable people to think about. I myself, I'm going to take the vaccination.
But to answer the second part of his question, how is the school prepared? We were fortunate enough about 10 years ago to find out that one of our students was HIV positive. The family didn't tell us, the student told us, because legally nobody has to tell you that you're HIV positive. But it set us up in motion where we changed our policy on spreading germs, making sure you wash your hands. So additionally, with this, several of the meetings that I've seen online where they're discussing even after the vaccination, if only, I think it said 70% of people took the vaccine, everybody doesn't have to take it. But if at least 70% take it, and they're saying, in addition to even once the vaccine has been started being distributed, we still need to follow these same guidelines. Like you were saying, continue washing your hands, continue wearing the mask. And even though we can't tell people what to do outside of the school, we have policies set in. You cannot come into the school without a mask. You have to social distance, and we've even put it in the policy. If we catch students being too close, you will be separated and continue, you will be sent home. And our plan was to have hybrid anyway, so that you could have smaller classroom sizes. So we would be online 5 days a week, but half of the class would come Monday and Tuesday, and the same class, the other half would come Thursday and Friday. So everybody would still be online, but they would get that one-on-one instruction.
Right. That's very good.
Face to face with the teacher. Some kids really need that just for explanation. So yes, sir, we do have a plan to address that.
That's a very good, because you hear a lot about overcrowding in schools. Mm-hmm. Now, this situation, that's one way of handling that situation. Right. So alhamdulillah, that's very good. Yeah. But before it just came to my mind regarding Clara Muhammad's school book. This book, this is like a volume 1, and there's going to be several other volumes or 1 or 2 to this book, because they couldn't put her entire life in just this one book, but it's still being worked on. There's going to be probably 1, 2, and 3. Here's a question regarding because we live in the 21st century, and we know that in public schools they're teaching all types of ideas that are contrary to our Islamic teachings. Out of curiosity, in your school, have you addressed the issues of homosexuality and alternative lifestyles, and what age group have you started discussing that and speaking against that? Sister Basimah.
Actually, we only address that if it comes up, if a student brings it up in a conversation. When we look at our textbooks, any of the textbooks where they have in their social studies textbooks where they're talking about, we live in a society with all types of families. Some families have 2 moms, some families have 2 dads. We tear those pages out. And even though we may address it, we address it from the Islamic perspective of what's acceptable, while at the same time teaching our students it's all about human respect. What people do in their home is their business, but you know your parent is not going to let you have a sleepover there. Your parents not, because we had a homosexual student in our school who really kept trying to go to the field trips when they were separated. We would take the girls swimming, we'd take the boys swimming, and it might be an overnight. And he would always beg to be able to go with the girls, and we would just politely explain to him that's against our faith. We understand what you're struggling with. And he sat with the girls at lunch. We didn't give him a hard time about that, but we had to remind him that's not our way and we can't accept that. And the parents didn't accept that. And we're trying to keep you from being hurt.
Right.
So
right.
That's mainly how we address it. We do talk about it. We're not afraid to talk about anything. Right. We talk about substance abuse. We talk about domestic abuse. We talk about it. If it's happening in the society, our students need to hear about it, but they also need to hear about it from the perspective of what Allah says.
Alhamdulillah.
I was just the guest speaker at a school in Missouri on Thursday, and a college, and of course one of the students asked the Islamic perspective on forget how she said it, but basically homosexuality and the free expression of who you are and everything. And I told her that the bottom line is that Islam does not accept homosexuality. I said, but you know, what a person does in their own environment, we don't have anything. Islam has nothing to say about that. I told her that Prophet Mohammed, present peace be upon him, did not have people going around trying to catch people in their homes, going against whatever the standard behavior should be. But if brought into public, they addressed it just like she just said. And I think that's the policy we should have. But I told her the other thing is that other religions have an idea, most of them, that you can reinterpret the scripture as time goes on. And I said Islam says no, that's not acceptable. So, you know, what we're understanding from the Quran is going to be for all time. It's not going to change. Muslims are not going to allow that. So therefore, we're never going to have this thing where okay, you know, in some religions now they're letting homosexuals be clergy, or they're performing marriages between men and women. I mean, 2 men, 2 women, all these kind of things. Contemporary Islam, as the Imam says, is contemptible, and it looks like you're going to have. I told him, I said, I saw a thing on the news where they were interviewing this homosexual Imam. And the man's answers that they weren't asking him about homosexuality. I was trying to figure out, well, why are you saying you didn't even have to say he's homosexual, because the question you're asking him has nothing to do with homosexuality. Right. But they kept saying homosexual Imam. And so you may see some of that. But I was saying to them, I said, but the position is going to remain in Islam that's not acceptable. But respect for people and their individual rights, as long as they don't infringe, we have to accept that because of where we're living. We live in the United States. We cannot go against that in that way. Imam told us, don't go outside and participate in any rallies where you have signs down with homosexuals. No, he said, don't do that. He said, we don't do that. Right. And so we follow that.
Right. Alhamdulillah. We're coming to a conclusion of our time in the show. We want to definitely thank you both for being on our program. But before we conclude, if there's anyone who would like to get in contact with you for questions, further questions, how can they reach either of you? Email or
you can go on our school website.
Okay, could you read that out to us?
The school website. He wants to you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, what is the website?
Oh, CMS MKEWI. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Imam Shaheed, did you see the question that the brother asked regarding the tafsir class?
Yes,
What time?
The times are 12 p.m.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, okay, do good. 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, and the number is 247-015-661. But I want to say that if people who are interested in what they can do with Clara Muhammad School, this woman here should be consulted. She's a wealth of knowledge and the experience that she has. And we had the opportunity to be with the Imam on many occasions and have him give his influence. And so I would encourage anybody who wants to know about Clara Muhammad Schools, the financial end of it, curriculum, what the Imam's reflections on this was, they should contact her for sure. I told her in many years that she should have been a consultant. She should be a consultant that goes around. And I believe that it's going to catch on with schools that are not in our association, because the kind of things we're talking about affects all private schools. All private schools have to raise money. All private schools have to figure out how they can coalesce their curriculum to address what they're all about, you know. And so in the experience in Milwaukee, we had a chance to interface with all of these entities, Marquette University, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, all these educational entities that are still functioning there. And I think in our association, people need to learn that there are entities outside that have resources, material resources, human resources. We would get, schools would send in volunteer students to work in the schools too. So there's all kinds of resources in every city. And I adamantly say we should try to avail ourselves of those resources, because we are a member of that community and we're trying to produce students that are going to be excellent citizens for that city. Why would not the city entities help our school to be what we want it to be? I think they will.
They do.
Sister Basimah, are there any, because our time is running up, any closing words you'd like to share with our audience before we conclude our program?
I'm always looking for new teachers, and inshallah, I would like to retire in 22. So we need somebody who can move to Milwaukee and take over Clara Muhammad so that we don't lose her. I'm just saying.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Well, we want to thank our guests, Imam Ronald Shaheed.
You're welcome.
And Sister Basimah Abdullah for their comments on this topic. I believe it was very informative. The listening audience, the watching audience benefited from that. I definitely was enriched by your information that you shared. Inshallah, we'll have you on again sometime in the future. Various on this topic. Our next topic. My brother asked me, we're working over Reese, but you already gave that information. Our next topic that we're looking to have in December, it hasn't been confirmed, but the topic would be understanding the logic of Quranic Arabic in order to perceive Scripture, the Bible, Torah, Quran, of course, coming from the insight logic of Imam Muhammad. We're looking, inshallah, to have Imam Salim Mu'min and Brother Abdullah Rashid from Houston, Texas. Because again, that's our goal is always to highlight, share with the community, students of Imam Muhammad, and just to let the community know who we have in our community and what they're doing in the community, because this is also a way of networking, to be informed. Because this is for, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but we always want to make this clear when we say students of Imam Muhammad. From a statement Imam Muhammad gave. Two things. He said a student is an intellect that is willing to be taught. And at a Ramadan session in 2004, he said, so we have many of you who are my students. You write down my talks. You try to get all you can get from me. And you take it and put it in your collections. And you make it first among the reading materials. I know you do. You put nothing above it but Allah and His Messenger. I know that, and that is what I have to have you do. I know you treasure it. You take it in and put it with your collection. You don't lose the harvest. Praise be to Allah. And of course, he was using the term harvest in the philosophical way. But that's what we mean by students. A student of Imam Muhammad puts no insight, no commentary, tafsir of the Quran, a perspective of life of the Prophet, life, even with regards to African American life. We don't look at Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We don't look at Dr. Martin Luther King before we look at Imam Muhammad's insights. And he put nothing above his insight other than the Quran, the life of Muhammad the Prophet. Praise be upon it. But again,
let me just share another book. You shared Sister Clara's book, but another one that came out near hers was called America's Other Muslims, Imam W.D. Muhammad, Islamic Reform and Making of the American Islam. It's a really excellent book.
And you get that on Amazon?
Yeah, I got it on Amazon, and I put it in your comments. It's by brother Frazier Raheem Muhammad.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing.
There's a lot of respect and props to her now. Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Alhamdulillah. Again, thank you very much. We pray that the audience appreciates this talk, and inshallah, December 19th will be our next New Africa Talks program. And we want to thank our brother Mujahideen, our technical advisor and manager of this program, for his support and New Freedom Exchange. Again, thank you. May Allah continue to bless us all. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir. Walaikum assalam.
Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, were fighting each other and carrying on and reaching their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know, as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only of the descendants of the black people of Africa, from Islam coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.
Don't work against us becoming Muslims if that's our choice. America is land of the free and home of the brave. And damn it, I'm brave and I'm free. And you can't take it away from me. I'm going to have freedom of choice. I choose Islam. I choose Quran. I choose Mohammed. I choose this religion for myself. And as long as my children are under my supervision and not of age to make their own decision, I am choosing Islam for all of my children. As long as my wife will like me, will love me, and she doesn't have to love me, as long as she respects me. I choose Islam for my wife. And that's my responsibility. And I hope you all feel the same way. Thank God we are free at last. We are free at last. You're not free when you're just free from physical bondage. You're not free until your mind is free and your human spirit is free. Your human spirit will take you where God wants you to go. And if you got that human spirit that will follow what God wants, your mind will be blessed by God to know how to get your body there. To get your body there. We're tired of being spooks in America or anywhere else. We are no spooks. We have a human body like everybody else. Don't tell me to accept God, immigrant Muslim from Pakistan and from Egypt and other places. Don't come over here and give me a life of Muslim ritualism. I had enough ritualism. I feel the genes in the, of my foreparents. They are in me. And I have a distaste for too much ritualism. I want reality. I want reality, and I want a place in this world. I want to obey God, and I want to get my share of this material world. Don't give me a spirit and tell me I can't have a body. God didn't give me a spirit and tell me I can't have a body. God gave me a spirit, and he gave me a material body to house my spirit. Now give me a material environment to house my mind and my spirit that is African American. We want to see New Africa. We want to see New Africa Islamic theaters. We want to see skyscrapers go up, and we build them. We want to see shipping lines and trucking lines and transportation lines all over in our neighborhood. We want to walk outside our house, and we want to look at the products and the construction and the industry of our own people, Muslim African Americans in New Africa, on these shores. On these shores. That's our rightful inheritance as the creation of God. God has created us for this. That's our natural inheritance. And we will accept nothing less. Nothing less. They have Spanish Town. They have Chinatown. Damn it, get ready for African American Town, Muslim New Africa. And I won't say it. I know you've been waiting for it. You've been waiting for me to say it. We cannot be stopped now.